So I've been reflecting recently on greed and noticing patterns of greed within myself and wanting to go deeper to reflect like what is greed. And I think greed a lot of people see as it's kind of triggering. It's the last thing people want to be is greedy. It's seen as an evil thing. And really what I see is greed is just fear. Fear of not having enough, of not being enough, of not having enough resources, physical security, emotional security, of not having love. What happens when you don't have enough resources, when you don't have or aren't able to have love or community, you end up dying. This is what our mind subconsciously is always trying to survive. So greed is just a feeling of lack, a feeling of a lack of our emotional needs being met, and a fear that in the future our needs, whether our physical needs or emotional needs, will not be met. So greed is always wanting more. There's never enough because there's always a feeling of unsafety that if I don't get more now, I won't have enough in the future to survive and get your needs met. So yeah, recently I was noticing some small patterns of greed and it really made me reflect. For example, recently I invested in some cryptocurrency coins, and a lot right now crypto is in a big bull market. Prices are going up, which is good. And I noticed that initially, I told myself I'll sell at this target and I'll make X amount of profit. But as prices are going up, things are going good. My mind is like, oh, maybe I should increase my target so I can make even more profit. Which on a side note is why most people don't make money trading, because of greed. But I just saw in my mind myself increasing targets without any reason. Like there was no reason why I needed to hit those higher targets. It was just wanting more. Another example, recently I sold my marketing business, and my plan was always to, one of my dreams was always to buy my parents a Tesla. And when I was thinking about it after I sold the business, I was having some resistance of calculating how much it cost and thinking, oh, maybe it would be better if I kept the money so I can invest it and it would just be safer. I ended up ordering them the Tesla, but still, I just noticed that resistance in my mind. So I don't see greed as black and white, as you're greedy or you're not greedy. I think all of us have some level extent of greed because there's just fear. So it's really a question of how much greed is there and what's behind it. Another example, I think the opposite of greed is generosity. Greed is when you want to hoard things, keep things to yourself because you don't feel secure, you don't feel like you have enough. But when somebody feels like they have plenty, they have more than enough, and they feel safe, people are willing to be generous and to give. Which I think is also about how open someone's heart is, how much they want to love and contribute. But yeah, I do think the opposite of greed is someone who's being generous. And there was an instance where a friend helped me with something, and I had the opportunity to be generous, but instead I decided to keep most of the profit for myself. Yeah, whereas I could have been more generous. So I also see that as greed. So yeah, as reflecting of what greed is, again, I think greed is really fear of not having enough, not being enough. So not having enough resources now or in the future. If you don't have enough physical resources to have shelter, to have your physical needs met, ultimately you die or you really struggle. Also, I see that I think it's at least subconsciously that if the more money I have, the more chances I have of finding romantic partners, having love, having connection, having community. So it's a fear of not being enough already or not having enough. So feeling some lack and that I need to find some external sources like more money to be able to feed that lack. And I definitely don't think money is a bad thing. I think money is just energy. It's really the intention behind it. If you're, if you're gaining money and it's in the detriment of others, that's something that's greedy. But I think if you're doing something you're passionate about and money is coming to you and you're treating it as energy and not just hoarding the money for yourself, using the money for good things, whether that's, more projects that are going to help people, building products that people are going to find valuable, or donating it or doing some type of charitable thing, just letting the money flow, that's an amazing thing. But when you're pursuing money in order to fulfill your own desires, just to fulfill an insatiable feeling of insecure, of not being safe enough, of just wanting, material things, that becomes deeply, unfulfilling when you're pursuing money from that place of insecurity. But I think if, money is being pursued from a place of love and contribution, believing that the more energy you have, which is money, the more you can give to others, the more you can help others, and the more, you can just build projects that are actually contributing to society, money can be an amazing thing. And yeah, I'm in a place right now where, I just sold my marketing business. I knew for a long time my next phase in my life, the next thing I work on is going to be, something of service, of helping people. For right now, I want to help people with social anxiety, something I really struggled with earlier on. And I always knew, like, I want to do it from a place of, of love, of service. And I don't see it as black and white, binary. It's not either you're doing it out of love or greed. There's a in between. There's multiple parts. So I know there's part of me that is doing it and wants to help people from a place of love, but there's part of me still doing it or thinking about it from a place of lack. Thinking that if I help people, one, I'll make more money. Two, I'll be able to attract more romantic partners. Be able to have more status, to have more connections, and just to feel more secure. Which really is just coming from a place of insecurity. If I had all those things already and felt abundant in that, then those desires wouldn't be there. Then all my actions would purely be coming from a place of love. I remember about eight months ago, before I sold the marketing business, my plan was to help people with social anxiety, and I want to create content, be kind of like an influencer. And I was asking my intuition and my intuition if I should do it. And it ultimately told me no, even though it was kind of like a dream of mine to make content. There's good sides of the content too. Like, I was doing it from a place of excitement and passion and just wanting to create things. But my intuition was saying, it just kept saying, do it out of love, do it out of love, do it out of love. And at that time, I wasn't in a place where a big driver of why I wanted to make content was to do it out of love. A lot of it was to do it out of status, out of validation. If I have a bunch of followers, people would look up to me. I would gain respect. I'll be able to attract more girls, that sort of stuff. So it was really coming from a place of insecurity. So, I do see content, and creating a YouTube channel, media team, all that stuff is something I want to do in the future. But yeah, I really want to do it from a place of love. So I'm kind of in this transition now where I'm, transitioning out of the marketing business and, transitioning, going full time into, coaching people with social anxiety, which I'm really excited about. But I do know, and it's probably not going to happen overnight, but I do know I want to get to a place where I'm really doing it out of service, really doing it from a place of love, of just purely wanting to help people and not doing it for kind of greedy desires. I think there are desires that are good, desires, for example, wanting to grow. I think our souls just want to grow. And I know that if I become a coach, and just teaching, teaching naturally it forces myself to grow, to become better so I can help more people. I have a desire to build co-living spaces, which, require money. And I think, those type of things will be great for communities. It'll bring to get people together. And I think those type of desires are great. Wanting to make content because it's going to help people, but also, if it's just fun and exciting and enjoyable, that's great. So I do think there are desires that are actually good and actually nurturing and deeply fulfilling. But there are desires that are really coming from a place of lack, from fear, which ultimately ends up being very unfulfilling. So that's a journey I'm on right now. And I think to get to that place, it's really about finding, I think it's two things. Further opening my heart to have more love. I think my heart is fairly open, but it's, not fully open, right? I don't know if I'll ever get fully open, but, I know there's more open my heart can be and more love I can have. So that's one. And the second side, I think, is feeling more security, feeling more safety within myself. And, for example, like, I think a big fear, of any human being is the fear of death. And the less and less I can fear things like that or feel secure that I'm always going to be okay and trust life and be at peace, then those feelings of greed are going to be less and less, the more secure I feel. I see it as, I believe love without power or security, maybe security is a better word, but love without kind of grounded security is weak love. I think love, if you can think about it as the feminine and masculine, the feminine energy needs the masculine. It needs to feel safe in order for the love to really flourish. I think if you have love, but if you don't feel like confident, don't feel secure, that love isn't really going to be radiant and really help people. But when I get to a place where the more confident I am, the more powerful my love becomes, and the more this love can actually help people and make an impact. So yeah, I think this is the journey for me right now, is deepening of my heart and feeling more secure and confident within myself. So I'm actually about to be on ayahuasca ceremony next weekend, a 2-night ceremony. It's something I felt very deeply called. That's a whole another long story. Maybe I'll make another video, short little video story about that story. But I do believe the reason I'm being called is because I am transitioning into this place of becoming a coach, becoming a teacher, and really entering this phase of service. And I want to really be in my power to really help people. And I think what's blocking me is, one, I need to open, there's more opening in my heart that can be done. And two is just feeling more security and power within myself. Because when I have that, that's when I really can help people. So yeah, I'm really excited for this journey. Again, I don't think it's going to happen overnight. Like, I'm just, boom, my heart's fully open. I'm the most secure person ever. I think it comes in gradual stages. But I do believe the more that those two things happen, the less and less greed there will be. And ultimately, I want to get to a place where there's the least amount of greed. And really, I'm just doing things, doing work that I'm passionate about, and I'm doing it out of love to really help people. So yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on the ayahuasca ceremony, which is going to be next weekend. I know it's going to be really deep. I've had literally like thoughts in my head of like, I'm gonna die. Like, I'm gonna die during the ceremony. In the beginning, it was kind of scary, but I think a part of me is really going to die. The ego, or at least parts of the ego. But aside from that, I think there's, it's not just ayahuasca that's going to magically cure things, right? Ayahuasca gives some insights of what the path, the next steps can look like. But I think a lot of the work is, really deeper self-love, which, a lot of my practice is really about self-love, deepening self-love. I'm also working with the inner child therapist because I think a lot of this feeling of lack of self-love, security ultimately comes from childhood. So I have been doing work there and working on those parts that are feeling lack, which can be leading to feelings of greed or instances of greed. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different things and kind of routes of how to increase security and opening of the heart and love. Yeah, thank you guys for listening thus far. If you have any questions or insights or reflections, definitely please leave it in the comments or send me a message, and I'll keep you updated on the journey. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Ciao.